guys, Julia here from JM2 Vintage. Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with the ship with me. These are all orders that came through over the weekend. Pretty good weekend of sales. Lots of interesting brands to talk about. Some pretty big dollar sales. I think my average sales price over the weekend was like $47. So like I said, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of what is selling right now and what is selling for a good price. But before we get started here, guys, if this is your first time here, if this is your first time stumbling on my channel, first and foremost, welcome. I am Julia. That is my name. We talk all things thrifting and vintage and the business of reselling on the internet here. If that sounds like something that you might be into, consider hitting subscribe down below. I would love to have you along on this journey. Without further ado, guys, it is late in the afternoon. I gotta get these things packed up and off to the post office. So why don't you go grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and let's get into the shipment. All right, so we're gonna start this off first with this great vintage hat. There's a lot about this hat that I like, and I see a ton of hats. There are definitely people out there in the world who are better qualified to talk about vintage hats. The Bins Bros out there certainly have probably a better bead on what the vintage hat market is looking for. But for me, my criteria as somebody who's not deep into the t-shirt world or anything like that, for me, I'm looking for 90s and earlier. I'm looking for golf tournaments. I'm looking for a shape that is in right now. You know, this for example is from the Ryder Cup, which is one of the big golf tournaments in the world, from Valderrama, which I believe is in Spain. I think this is 1997. So something like this is exactly the kind of hat that I'm gonna pick up. Now, when I say that the knowledge base is very deep in this world, I mean it. There are certain hats right now, 90s. There are some of those right now that are selling for $100, $200, $300. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I don't really follow it. I really just trust my gut and go with the kind of things that I know are going to be an easy sell. To help you kind of suss it out, the easiest way to do it is take a look at what hats are popular right now, what the new hats from the popular brands, what shape are they making? Almost certainly they're gonna be referential to something vintage, so look for that shape. In vintage hats, also look for events that happened at a specific time. Completely forgot to give you the stats on this. This one I had listed at $34 and I got an offer for $27.54. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $21.36. And this was a sale over on eBay. And I had it listed for about 3 months. So like I said, I'm keeping my eyes out for events, 90s and earlier. I'm looking for the vintage version of the style of hats that's popular right now. And I'm also looking for things that people would wear ironically. For example, just a few months ago, I had a hat from the Lehman Brothers Open, which is something that I was almost positive was gonna be sold to a Wall Street bro, just because of the Lehman Brothers connection there. And sure enough, sold to somebody who lived in Jersey City, which is obviously where all the young folks who work on Wall Street live. Anyway, that's kind of my criteria for hats. But if that is something that you are into, or your thrift store has a ton of hats, take the time to deep dive, go to the Bins Bros content, see what is really popular right now, because there is bank to be made in vintage hats. Next up here, we've got a swimsuit, and this is from a brand called TA3. This is actually from my own closet. Now, if you are unfamiliar with TA3, I've had so many people ask me about this, so just in case one of you guys are curious about it, let me tell you my thoughts. So TA3, if you are unfamiliar, is a brand of what they call shaping or cinching swimsuits. So as you can see here, it's got a corset on the back, and the construction of this is pretty sturdy. This is a really firm stretch, right? This is not your typical comfy swimsuit. So when you lace this up, it really does give you that kind of corset effect. And I will say that if you're concerned, because they are pricey, if you are concerned about the quality or anything like that, do not be concerned. Quality is fantastic. It really does what it says. The fits are great. The only thing for me is I have maybe the world's shortest torso. I have the opposite issue of what our long torso friends experience, where I have an issue with riding up. Me with a very short torso, I can have an issue with bagging. And they do make a short torso version of this now, which is great. So if you are short torso, I strongly recommend that you do get the short torso. And the reason is this. In a typical swimsuit, they're all made using 4-way stretch. So that means that the fabric stretches this way and the fabric stretches this way. In any normal suit, because you have stretch this way, it's generally gonna fit fine on a short torso. The reason that I had an issue with this is because it's such a firm stretch. It doesn't have as much stretch this way because it's got that kind of like compressive panel around the midsection where the corsetry is. So it doesn't shrink up when it's off a body as much as a typical swimsuit does. So I had some very serious bagging issues yonder, right? So I think I only wore this once or twice because I was like very uncomfortable wearing it. I didn't want to take off my cover up. So I'm like, you know what, let me move this on. Like I said, they do now make a short torso version. So if you are short torso and you're like, well, typically, you know, a normal bathing suit fits me, it will not be the same story with this because of like the rigidity of that fabric. But I do 100% support this swimsuit. 100% think that this is really good quality stuff. So if you've been thinking about it, buy this with confidence. If you are outsourcing, the name again is TA3, like the letter T, the letter A, and the number 3. Keep your eyes out for it because they sell for a pretty penny. I had this listed at $89 and I only had it listed for about 2 weeks. And I got an offer for $70, which I gladly accepted. And of course, like I paid full price for this when I bought it. So there's no profit here, but what I got was $56 and this was a sale over on Poshmark. So a Bolo brand for sure in swim and something that you should feel comfortable buying, but like do buy according to your torso. Next up, I have this adorable little dress from Voodoo Vixen. Now, Voodoo Vixen, all of these vintage style dress brands, I absolutely love. This is the cutest little rose printed halter neck dress. And anything I've ever had from this brand or brands like it tends to move pretty dang quickly. Usually they're out of my hands within like a couple months. This is definitely one of the things where like the larger the size, the better, but I've also had very good experiences selling very small sizes in this. This is one of the categories where like the extra smalls kind of move just as fast as the smalls and mediums, which is not the case in almost anything else. I talk about this a lot. This is a perfect example of a kind of clothing that has a dedicated buyer pool and limited manufacturers who make stuff for that dedicated buyer pool. That is a magic combination for resellers, right? And that can very easily be applied to anything that matches that set of criteria. Whether that be another kind of genre of alternative clothing, think like goth pieces, industrial pieces, you know, for like the industrial music scene, rave, etc. Or it can also apply to like purpose-based items. So think like horseback riding or skiing or snowmobiling or whatever. You know, these places have known brands that make stuff for what the activity is, a dedicated group of buyers, you know, and there's limited companies who make that kind of stuff. So think like riding boots, right? Like I don't know anything about horseback riding, but I know some of you guys do. But riding boots are like famously expensive, but they are purpose built. They fit a specific way to serve a specific purpose. They're used specific leathers to serve a specific purpose. There's really no like cheating out of that, right? There's no like cheap version of the same thing. So it's very much the same concept for a reseller. So I always advise that, you know, if you have something in your area that is very specific. So say, you know, you're in Kentucky and you've got a lot of like horseback riding around you. You're in Florida, you've got a lot of a specific kind of fishing. You know, you're in Utah, you've got skiing and you've got fly fishing. You know, whatever it is that is a thing around where you are, take a little time to learn the brands, learn, you know, what's good, what's not, and keep your eyes out in your thrift store because those pieces absolutely positively land there. Like I know where there's horse property here around California, and every once in a blue moon, I'll go thrift in those areas. And because I've done a little bit of research, not nearly enough research, I also don't live nearly close enough to warrant it, but I'm able to spot the good pieces and grab them out of the thrift store. Anyway, this one I had listed for $52. I had it listed for about 2 months and I got an offer for $40, which I did accept. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $30 even. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So hope she adores it. I love Voodoo Vixen. I love any kind of alternative clothing brands like that. Something I'm always comfortable paying up for. Next up, this is going to one of you guys, I believe. This is the most beautiful little like swim cover up, easy breezy summer dress from a brand called Step & Style, which I've never heard of before, but just everything about this I was on board with. It's polka dotted. It's got this kind of optic fading of the polka dots where they're a little bit bolder out here. It's got a really interesting, almost like log and look-esque shape to the skirt and some like beautifully ruched sleeves. I'm always on board with like something that is, I think, meant to be a swim cover-up that can very easily go from the beach right to cocktails. You know that the second you get back to your hotel room from the beach or the second you get back to the beach house, whatever, that bed looks real tempting. So if you want to keep going, you need something that moves from the beach directly to the restaurant. So this brand is interesting. I had never found it before. Again, this was very much a style pickup. And these retail, I wanna say like 80 to 90 bucks. So they're not cheap in any way, shape, or form. They're 100% cotton, beautifully made. So it's something I will be keeping my eyes out for. I did not have it listed for long and I had a lot of interest on it in that time. I mean, it's not something that's gonna sell for like $70. So obviously mind your costs on it. Make sure that your profit margin is there. But if you're spotting it in the bins, you're spotting it for a couple bucks, you know, it's definitely gonna be a brand that I'll be picking up. I'd say you anticipate kind of on the higher end of bread and butter with this. So I had it listed for $36 and I only had it listed for 5 days. Like I said, I had a ton of interest on it. And I got an offer for $28, which I gladly accepted. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $20.40. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So I hope you love this. It is so cute. Definitely a bold statement, but something that's like comfortable and breezy and like everything you want on a hot summer day. All right, next up, I have this gorgeous and very interesting piece that my mom picked up. This beautiful silk like evening coat. It's long, it's got really interesting pleating to it. This is like a statement. This feels to me like very regal. Like you wanna walk into a room and feel like a queen. This is the kind of thing that you wear. It's really beautiful. The brand on this is Chez Vous de France, which I was not able to find a ton of information on, but there were just a lot of details that were really lovely. For me, it was the cuffs. Look at those cuffs. This is all pleated. There's a ruffle up here. Just everything about this, I absolutely love. And I couldn't find much about the brand at all. The only other things that I found were a few other pieces that were kind of similarly interesting. But again, it just, you know, it's weird and well made, right? Like that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm constantly keeping my eyes out for. And in this case, it paid off. So I had her listed for $80 and I only had her listed for about 3 weeks. I really did my best to try to photograph this as it would look like on a body. It was just kind of tough. It was a size 2X. It's just a very voluminous thing. So I was very hopeful that it was translating. And I guess it did because I had quite a bit of interest in it. But I got an offer for $72.08, which I did accept with a roughly $2 cost at the East Coast bins. This brought me to a profit of $54.58. And this was a sale over on eBay. So I hope she absolutely feels gorgeous in this because it is, again, such a statement piece. Like this will turn heads when you walk in a room in that jacket. Next up, now this is something I will pick up anytime I see it. This is a linen shirt, open weave. As you can see, there's no brand tag here. It's made in Italy. And I think it's just one of those, I call them like the made in Italy linen boutique brands. And you see this kind of stuff a lot at like, you know, a resort store, right? Where you can go and buy like sunscreen, bathing suits, and they'll have a few pieces like this as like swim cover-ups. So it's not anything that's like a really highly sought after like log and look designer, but in terms of style and material, right? Like this is linen, it's very much in demand. And these are the kind of things that like I don't ever pay up for at a regular thrift store unless it's something like really extraordinary. But I see this kind of stuff at the bins all the time and I grab it all the time and it sells well all the time. It's interesting, you know, if you haven't watched the documentary on Brandy Melville, I think it's called Brandy Hellville, they talk a lot about this town called Prato in Italy, which is basically a Chinese manufacturing center in Italy. And it's how Brandy Melville's items are all able to say like made in Italy. Where typically if you see something that is made in Italy, it's like synonymous with quality. Prato is very much like a Chinese manufacturing base just located in Italy, like in the country of Italy. But they go into that a lot. In my humble opinion, that documentary is required viewing for all resellers. Not only will it open your eyes up to like the horrors of the fast fashion world, but it will double down on your commitment to what you're doing, helping to build a circular fashion marketplace. So this one I had listed at $34 and I had it listed for just 1 week. This was a very cool silhouette. So I'm kind of not surprised that this moved as quick as it did, but typically these pieces move within 1 or 2 months for me. And I usually list them between like 32 and 36, depending on what they are. And I generally anticipate getting somewhere between like 20 and 30. But this ended up popping through as a full price sale. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $26.82. And this was a sale over on eBay. So gorgeous little piece. I hope she loves it. Again, just a perfect little boho, open weave, breezy, interesting linen piece. Next up, this is another one that my mom found, and this is a beautiful little silk dress, little sheath dress from Kay Unger. Now, Kay Unger is a designer that did a lot of pieces that you would find in like Neiman Marcus. This is silk. But I think the thing that moved this as quick as it moved, because I've had other Kay Unger pieces that have taken a little bit longer to move, I think the thing that moved this is the color. It's this like really saturated sunshine yellow, which is just a color you don't see that much, right? Like you think about color trend in terms of like eras, right? For a long time, you know, for probably most of the 2010s, the popular colors were these like dusty pastels, you know, a dusty pink, a dusty blue. And you couldn't really find anything that was like icier, right? Anything that was a little bit more saturated. And now we're getting into the more icy colors. But really, it's been a very long time since these kind of saturated colors were like popular enough to be found in like a lot of clothing. So anything that has an unusual color has that little extra something of being a rare color to find. I think that is what moved this as fast as it did. So think like your cobalt blues, like red is very popular right now, but for a long time, we didn't see a lot of red things, right? Burgundy and red have been really making a big move, but it has been a very long time since sunshine yellow has been a common color in any kind of fashion. But either way, I had this listed for about 3 weeks. I had it listed at $58 and I got an offer for $49, which I did accept. With a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $37.20. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. I just love that color and I hope she absolutely adores that dress. Next up, oh, this was an interesting one. So this is a beautiful oversized sweater from a brand called Russ. Now, I've had this for a while, a long while. I think that this is a Japanese-based designer. Very, very niche, but very, very pricey. And it's one of those things that I've had, I wanna say, about 2 years. And it's every time I've relisted it, it's always gotten a lot of interest. So I knew that the interest was there. I just had to find the right buyer to get it. This was never, ever anything that was on the chopping block with me. You know, a lot of times when I do end up donating something back, I'm weighing out, you know, the profit that I'll get for it versus the amount of time that I've had to hold on to it versus the likelihood of me finding another. And this is something that I have not seen a piece from since I found this 2 years ago. So it was just never in line to be donated back. You know, and anytime you're dealing with a niche designer, an extended time in inventory is something that you just have to anticipate, right? So if you're somebody who doesn't want to deal with anything that's slow moving, something like this would be something that you leave behind. And that totally works. Again, you know, Amazon was built on razor thin margins and just selling fast in bulk, right? So there are many ways to build a sustainable business here. So this I had listed again for about 2 years. I had it listed at $94. I want to say that this was probably about $300 or $400 new. And I got an offer for $75, which I gladly accepted. Very happy to be moving this beauty on. And with a $1 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $57.97. And this was a sale over on eBay. So again, very happy to be getting this into a new home. I knew the right buyer would come along soon enough. Next up, now this is a little, I think, nightgown from Free People. This is the perfect example of something where if this was around for a year, I would have donated it back, right? Because number one, I'm not going to get a ton of money for something like this. And number two, the likelihood of me finding another piece like this is pretty high. This did end up selling quite quickly though. Anything nightgown and nightgown adjacent from Free People does tend to sell quite well. And again, we're gonna be seeing a lot more red as we get into fall in terms of the pop color, like where last year it was very burgundy heavy. Burgundy's still gonna be pretty big this fall and winter. At least according to Fashion Week, it's gonna be a lot of brown and a lot of red. I'm always interested to see what kind of surprise color sneaks in. So like right now, while chartreuse wasn't really anywhere in Fashion Week in the last year or two, it has become something of a pop color. And it does go, always keeping our eyes out for the surprise trends. But either way, this one I had listed for just under 2 months. And I had it listed at $32. This is the perfect example of something from Free People that is quite saturated. So you do need to price it accordingly. And I got an offer for $25, which I did accept. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $18 even. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So let me know how you're doing with pieces like this from Free People. Are you still picking them up? This is definitely something that I would not pay up for in the thrift store, in like the regular thrift store. Let me know if you are. Let me know if you've really wheeled back from picking up Free People or if you've just gotten much, much, much more selective. I'm interested to hear how everybody's doing with it because I feel like Free People is kind of a bellwether for a lot of stuff in reselling. Next up, now this is a brand I don't pull a ton of. This is Uniqlo. The reason I picked this up is because it is brand new with tags. Now Uniqlo, as I will sing from the highest mountain, is absolutely tremendous bang for your buck. Based in Japan, it's kind of fast fashion-y, but definitely more basics. You know, this isn't like a Zara where you have 2,500 SKUs at any given time, right? Like they do 6 different kinds of black pants. They do basic t-shirts. They are very much like a bread and butter closet staples kind of store. And if you are in the market and you're trying to buy new, but you want to keep yourself on a budget, cannot recommend Uniqlo enough. The quality of their textiles, the quality of their construction for the price you pay is, I think, head and shoulders above pretty much anybody else out there right now. But in terms of on the resale market, I'm keeping my eyes out for like specific collaboration pieces. They do a lot of collaborations with designers, which I love. And of course, anything new with tags. It is always such a fast sale. And again, solidly in that bread and butter to like upper bread and butter territory, depending on what you've got. And sometimes they go a little bit higher. Sometimes you hit that $40, $50 mark. And their down jackets are definitely something you should keep your eyes out for because they do sell quite well. I think I got $65 for the last one that I sold. And I think that they only retail for about $90. But either way, this I had listed for just under 1 month. I had it listed at $32 and I got an offer for $25, which I did accept. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $18 even. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So love Uniqlo and truly cannot recommend them enough if you are looking to buy stuff new and want the best possible quality for your money. Next up, this is an interesting one. This is a brand called K-Way. Now, K-Way, I believe, is Euro-based. And this is the second or third piece that I have found from them. This is like a convertible pair of hiking pants. And I have a bunch of friends who work in the outdoor sports world. And when I found the first piece, it was like a coach's jacket and it had like the retro logo on it. So I hit him up and I'm like, what can you tell me about K-Way? And he was like, oh, you know, if you played soccer in the 90s, you know what K-Way is. I guess they did a lot of like sponsorships with European teams, and you would always see the coaches wearing the jackets with the big K-Way logo, whatever. The thing that's interesting to me, every single time I have relisted these, they have gotten so much interest. I don't know why they didn't sell. They've gotten so much more interest than any other like outdoors brand that I've had. So if you have any intelligence on that, if you are familiar with K-Way, if you know the brand well, you find it a lot, you sell it a lot, let me know what you know. It was so much that it caught my interest, right? Like it caught my interest amongst all the other chatter that comes across my attention in the course of a day. But I have had these for 8 months, so they did take a minute to sell. And I had them listed at $32. I think I've lowered the price on these, but I had them listed at time of sale for $32 and I got an offer for $28, which I gladly accepted. With a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $21.18, and this was a sale over on Depop. Again, another interesting thing to move on Depop. I wonder if it's just one of those kind of retro sports brands that's going to be having a little bit of a renaissance. But again, these were a little bit more of like a technical piece. Like they weren't something that I would see somebody who's like a gorpcore kind of guy wearing. Like it's not fashionably oversized or like, you know, logo heavy. It's very like functional convertible pants. So I'm very confused. I will be doing more research. All right, next up, we've got this great little piece from Outerknown. This is a brand you should absolutely have on your radar. This is a brand that was co-founded by Kelly Slater, like the pro surfer Kelly Slater. And all of their stuff feels very much like stuff I would expect to see Kelly Slater wearing in his day-to-day. All really high quality cottons, super soft flannels. Like this is flannel and it's just starting to break in. They're most known for this thing called the blanket shirt, which is like a heavier gauge flannel. It's like pretty thick and it can easily be worn as like a shacket. That's kind of where they got on the map. But I've found and sold so many things from Outerknown, and really everything has sold very quickly, with the only exceptions being small sized pieces for men. So I've had this one and I have one that's a size extra small, which is just in any brand, no matter how desirable it is, a men's size extra small is gonna take a little while to sell, even longer than a women's size extra small. So everything else I've had has sold generally within a couple weeks. And I mean, even this is a men's size small. Even this moved fairly quickly. It moved in about 3 months, which any other brand, a size small, is generally gonna take a bit longer than 3 months to move. But this is really good stuff, elevated, casual basics, something to keep, you know, your eyes out for yourself if you're looking for those kind of pieces, because the quality is great. And again, if you don't love what you buy, easy to resell. That has been a prerequisite for my own shopping, with the exception of like my sweatshirts, for years. I generally don't go to like Target and buy things because I know I'll never be able to resell them. I'd rather spend a little bit more. If I love it, I keep it. If I don't love it, I'm always able to resell. Either way, had this listed for about 3 months, like I said, and I had it listed at $44 and I got an offer for $35, which I did accept. That's about what you'll get for these kind of shirts from Outerknown. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $26 even. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So guys, keep your eyes out for that brand. It's definitely a good one. I obviously see a lot of it because it's based here in California. It does feel very California, but I do think that the popularity is making its way out to the larger United States. Next up, this was one that took a little bit of time to sell, and I'm not super surprised. This is Dolce & Gabbana. Hello, this is a little girl's dress, and it is as cute could be. Unfortunately, it is missing its belt, which I do believe was just like a green, grow green ribbon. But either way, Dolce & Gabbana, you're gonna pick that up. You're gonna pay up for that, right? Yes? Okay. It's funny, I remember years ago, I was in New York and I went to Bergdorf's. My friend was buying her wedding dress and we had an appointment at the salon. And I remember going through like the children's section and just seeing all of the like $500 kids shirts. I'm like, in like silk crepe de chine. I'm like, who is putting a baby in silk crepe de chine? Like, they're going to throw up on it. It's not easy to clean. And not to mention the thought of like dry cleaning chemicals being next to baby skin, you know, like it's, I don't know. Like, they live in a different world. This is a completely different reality from where I live, you know? But either way, I mean, it is adorable. It's all cotton. And you know, the good thing about like designer baby clothes, especially if you're buying on the secondhand market, is that it's going to have a secondhand marketplace value, right? So like kids are in and out of clothing sizes in 2 seconds flat, you know, we all know that. So it's the kind of thing that you can buy secondhand at whatever price. And as soon as they've grown out of it, or as soon as they've kind of done it, you can probably turn around and sell it for exactly what you paid for it, if not a little bit more. And I am so down for that structure of dressing your child. Either way, I had this listed for about 6 months. Again, it's gonna be a higher priced child's item, so it's gonna be, you know, a longer tail. I had it listed for $70 and then I got an offer for $50, which I did accept. This probably, if I had the belt, would have gone closer to like the $70, $80 mark when all was said and done. But with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $38.65. And this was a sale over on eBay. So I hope she loves it. What a cute little girl's dress. And then finally, this is something that I had, and it moved so quickly, and showing this on camera is not gonna do it any justice. This is a vintage silk halter neck gown from a brand called Resale. Now, this is definitely 90s vintage, going by the style and going by the labeling. And as it turns out, Resale, as much as I found, because there was not a ton of information on it, it was either an in-house Neiman Marcus brand or a brand that sold at Neiman Marcus. I think it was an in-house brand. And I think it might have been like in their lingerie. This, you know, I'm pretty sure is a night dress. I don't think that this was meant to be a gown, but of course I could be wrong. It does have a hook and eye behind the neck, so I don't know how comfortable that would be to sleep in now that I think about it. But this is so dramatic and gorgeous. And it was one of those things that I picked up and I was like, oh yes, you know. The way that the straps go, they go just like kind of around the arm on the back, and they attach like right kind of at bra line. On the right person, this is going to be a show stopper. Let me actually fasten these hooks and eyes for transit. But this is absolutely the kind of thing, like, guys, keep your eyes out. Now, I always say don't sleep on sleepwear, which is to say, if you are out thrifting, spend some time in the sleepwear department, because this is exactly the kind of thing that could be over there, right? Number one, you'll find it, right? Number two, it'll usually, if it is in the sleepwear section, be priced a little bit less than a dress. The amount of like silk slip dresses that are dresses, not nightgowns, that I have found in the sleepwear department is pretty alarming. So also there's a ton of sleepwear brands that will net a fortune on the resale market. I did a whole video on them. I'll link it down below if you haven't seen it and you're interested in learning more about sleepwear. Go follow it. It's by no means comprehensive, but it's a good like starting jump into the world. But this just knocked my socks off. When I finally put it on the mannequin, I was like, oh, you know, like just so beautiful. Like I knew it was gonna be gorgeous when I pulled it out of the bins. And then once I had it with like a body underneath of it, it just took my breath away. But I had this listed for $148. I had it listed for just one day and I had a ton of interest on it in the interim. I got an offer for $120, which I did accept. And with a $2 cost, this brought me to a profit of $105.17. And this was a sale over on eBay. So I hope she absolutely feels like the bombshell that she is going to look like in this dress. So gorgeous. But guys, that is it. That is the shipment for today. Thank you so much for hanging with me while I literally get my work done. It is always so nice to have somebody to talk to while I'm doing this. But I gotta get these things loaded and over to the post office before the end of Monday rush gets there. So guys, if you had fun, please consider leaving a like or a comment on this video. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I would love to have you along on this journey. But without further ado, guys, I hope you have the most beautiful weekend. Happy hunting, and I will see you all in the next one.